This review is of Teledyne Flir's Extech AN300 large vein CFM-CMM thermo anemometer. It has a 4-inch vein diameter for large ducts, simultaneously displays air velocity or airflow plus air temperature. This is not correct. It's actually air velocity, and then you can switch between airflow and air temperature. So this is good for, according to this, HVAC, manufacturing, engineering, and appliance testing, research and design, and more. So it's the Extech Advantage. Now, if we take a look at the back side of it, it's got several languages to help with people who don't speak English, and it has a 1-year warranty. You'd think for I paid $315, I believe, plus tax. Then you would think that it would have more than a 1-year warranty, but okay. Now the features include: it measures airflow and velocity, ambient temperature, multi-point and timed average calculations, minimum and or maximum, data hold, and auto power off. It has it comes with the case and with 4 AAA batteries. It has an optional airflow cone kit, AN300C, which is more expensive than the meter itself, which is, to me, is idiotic. The specifications are more detailed in the manual, but the basics are: you can choose between only, on the metric side, meters per second, and on the imperial side, feet per minute for your velocity, and for the airflow, only CFM and CMM. Temperature, Celsius and Fahrenheit. It has a pretty good range for all of these readings, I would have to admit, but I'll explain a little bit why it's not excellent. Okay, so the hard case is nice, although I am not sure that it'll handle a drop if it's heavy. But at least you have a nice case to carry it in. I don't understand why it's as big as it is. I'm assuming that maybe the other AN300 series anemometers contain additional items other than just the manual and the meter. So as you can see, there's a lot of space in here. The meter fits in right here. They put the manual on top, and they've got the batteries tucked in underneath usually. But it seems like an awful lot of space. Here is the anemometer, and on the back there is a mysterious inset button there that is not documented. I don't know what it is. The compartment is not that difficult to open. The batteries are not particularly difficult to remove, although I would suggest that if you want to make it easier on yourself, number one, you buy rechargeable batteries of the proper milliamp hours, and number two, that you put a ribbon underneath them so you can just pull the ribbon to help pull them all out easily. Otherwise you have to kind of smack it against your hand to get them to fall into the palm of your hand. And it does come with Mitsubishi Electric AAA batteries, so take that for what it's worth. Alright, it comes with a manual that is in several languages. The English is at the front, and at the back I'm guessing that this is probably Portuguese. I can't tell you all the languages, but I assume it's the same as the 6 languages that are on the sleeve that was wrapped around it, which is not too difficult to remove. There's an introduction. Let's see, a description of the various parts, except for that mysterious possible button. It gives a brief description of the keypad, which only has 4 buttons. I mean, for $315, you'd think they could afford more than 4 buttons. It also explains the display. That looks like an awful lot, doesn't it? But in reality, it isn't as much as you think it is. And I'm not sure why for $315 they didn't opt for a better display that would, not require different space for each thing as far as the the units of measurement. Now this also is usable for the AN310 because it shows on here wet bulb temperature and dew point temperature and some relative humidity and so on and so forth, things that are not included in the AN300 that I am reviewing. It gives instructions on how to set everything. The setup mode has two things that you can do. In the P1 unit selection, you can select whether you want imperial or metric, and in the P2 section, you can define the area that you are measuring within in square inches or square centimeters. And then it gives a lot more detail about the specifications here. One of the things that attracted me to this one is that it offers, for airflow, it offers up to 99,999 meters squared per minute, which I think is pretty good. And also for the velocity, the resolution was up to 0.01 meters per second, which I thought that was, decent. But here's the thing. Although I think that the resolution for the velocity is sufficient at 2 decimal points, the resolution for the airflow should also be 2 decimal points. In addition, the resolution for the area that you're measuring within has no decimal points whatsoever. And that means that if you're measuring an area that is 185.7, you have to put 186 in. So if you are required to provide very accurate measurements, this unit will screw you in that respect. And also in the respect that there's only 1 decimal point for airflow. Also, the manual says to take measurements from this side, and that's because the thermistor is in there. I don't think, because of how recessed this is, it's like 1/2 inch recessed on both sides, which is fantastic. I think that all vanes should be set up so that it's recessed enough so it won't accidentally hit something that you put against it. Like I test fans, computer fans, 120, 140 millimeter, and I don't want them to hit each other. The blades themselves are set at a 45-degree angle, and they are mildly textured. That means that technically, since they're at a 45-degree angle, you should be able to measure from either side. The only disadvantage if you measure from the front side is you can't see the readout up here and the keys, and you won't get as accurate a temperature readout. But otherwise, you should be able to do it. Now, when I was checking this out, the first thing I did was, hold on, let me turn off this fan. I'm sorry for all the noise. The first thing that I noticed when I tested this was the blades are not perfectly balanced, which you can see is happening right now. So you would have to carefully apply, say, nail polish. It could be clear nail polish, it doesn't matter, to whichever blade seems to be the lightest, which will be the blade at the top, a little bit at a time until you get it so that it will not turn at all when there is no air flow. So don't breathe on it while you're trying to balance it. $315 meter should not have imbalanced blades. It doesn't seem like there's very much, if any, resistance to this vane moving. However, when I was testing it on my 2-foot-long wind tunnel with minimum RPMs, minimum airflow, minimum static pressure, it sometimes could not register that air movement at all, which I found disappointing. I thought that this would be sensitive enough to do that. But, if you're looking for really great sensitivity for that kind of a situation, this is not going to be ideal. If you want to be able to quickly find the area where the maximum airflow is, no matter, as long as it's not too low, this is great because 4 inches affords you a lot of room for error. Now, I will point out that except for in certain situations, having the vane offset from the source of the wind will produce higher airflow than if you center the vane over the source. So like when I'm testing, say this fan, if I put the vane like this, I will not get as high of a reading as if I put it like this. I'll get higher readings when it's offset. So let's see, what else can I tell you about this fan? And oh, by the way, that's not a flaw in the design. That is typical of both the computer fans and the vanes. Personally, I would prefer to have a vane that had scooped blades instead of flat blades to be more able to catch light wind flow or airflow. When it turns on, it has a light on a timer. After a few seconds, it does turn off. It defaults to showing you the velocity on the top and the temperature on the bottom. If you want to set your units of measure, you're going to press and hold the setting button until it brings you up to this. And then you're going to select, let's see, I believe it was the hold button. And that allows you to select between metric and imperial. If you want to then, instead, if you want to do the area that you're measuring airflow within, you'll want to press and hold that. And once it gets to P1, you'll want to go to, oh darn it, I forgot, I have to. See, this is a thing that I find irritating. There's enough space for at least 6 buttons here. I don't like that. They should put more buttons, not less. And in addition to that, I mean, 315, there should be more buttons. In addition to that, the amount of time you have to hold the button is a bit longer, I feel, than is strictly necessary. So that kind of, can potentially slow you down if you're in a rush. It can feel frustrating. But now I'm having trouble. Oh, wait a second. It's one of these. Ah, there it is. You use the L mode button, and that switches you to P2. P2 is where you enter your area. Now, unfortunately, although it allows 99,999, it is awkward to adjust because, number one, to adjust the number that's flashing, you can only use the up arrow. When you want to go to the next number in the line, you have to use the down arrow, which is, you've got 3 other buttons here. If you want to count up and down, you've got 2 other buttons that you could use. So, yeah. So you press the down arrow, it moves to the next one, and you'll notice there are no decimal places, which, because I'm measuring a relatively small area of my wind tunnel that's 2 feet long, but it's only about this big around, about 8 inches, I need that decimal point. Now, maybe if you're outside or you're measuring a large area, that's not going to be important for you, but for me, it is, and I find that very irksome. When you're done, you press the hold button again, and then you can go back to using it by pressing and holding the set button or the on-off button. The light doesn't stay on. There is a way to keep it on. I don't remember how to do that. If you want to do averages, you can use this button to do that, but you have to press and hold it. So now it's set to that. And again, press and hold to turn it off, there we go. Now it's set to go, and now it's off. All by using just that one little button. And then if you want to switch from temperature to airflow, you have to press this button quickly, and it switches to your CFM or CMM reading. But it's only 1 decimal place, whereas the velocity is 2 decimal places. Personally, for what I'm doing, I need at least 2 decimal places for both. Also, I find it irritating given that there's more than enough space on this screen, this display, to show. See, I don't like how fast that light turns off when I'm trying to show this to you. There's more than enough space to have the temperature on here as well. There's no excuse. Okay? It's stingy. just like 4 buttons is stingy. Now, another concern I have is when I saw this thing here, I thought, oh, great, it's waterproof. That's why they've got this Una sheet covering the buttons. It's a molded sheet, so you can feel the buttons. The bad thing of it is this is not a waterproof unit. So yeah, you've got the silicone running around where the front and back half join, but unless it drops exactly straight and hits that, it's not going to protect your device. It's going to get damaged, inside or out or both. But I digress. What I wanted to say about this is if you're going to be frequently using these buttons, this plastic is going to crack. Eventually, the button surface is going to come off, and since the button labeling is on the buttons, that's going to disappear. Even before it cracks and falls off, it's going to be rubbed off by your fingers constantly pushing on it. So that's a problem. So I'm irritated. I really think there should be at least 6 buttons. I think they should have done better in the covering that they used for the buttons. I think they should, do a few other things. Now, let me just run down the line here and make sure that I haven't missed anything. Okay, so first of all, when I was testing this device, I did not notice any flukes or erroneous readings during testing. So the accuracy seemed to be great. It's just the sensitivity is not good enough for me. And the resolution of the readings for airflow especially. And the resolution for the area setting, which doesn't have decimal points at all, was very irritating for me. It's easy to find the point of strongest. Well, I already said that before. Talked about the blade setting and the thermistor and stuff. Let's see. That I did. Oh, if you need, I think it's wet bulb, dew point, relative humidity. Those will be all on the AN310. There is also an AN320, but I don't remember what that has specifically. Oh, the manual itself is a little bit disorganized. Some of the functions that are available on this unit are not placed in the proper place within the manual. They could have done better on that. Oh, if you need data logging or real-time data transfer, this does not have it. There are no ports whatsoever on this device, which I find disappointing. You can buy under $100 meters that have air velocity, air flow, the ambient temperature, relative humidity, dew point, wet bulb, data saving, real-time data transfer, all for under $100. The catch is either there's too much drag on the vane, and or the vane is out of balance, and or the readings have flaws, they're erroneous. But you can, if you bother to try long enough, probably find something for a fraction of the cost of this thing that has more functionality and is accurate at the same time. I find the fact that a unit this expensive does not come with a protective case. It should. Now, granted, most likely when you drop it, it's not going to fall on this, which would be devastating. It would just destroy this. It will most likely, because the batteries are down here, is most likely going to fall like that. But there's nothing to protect it from falling in any direction. And the other ones that I've tested, some of them have, at least for the grip area, a protective silicone or other rubber casing. This one has nothing other than this flimsy excuse of a protective gasket. And let's see. Oh, so another point of contention for me, there's no way for me to buy an AC adapter and plug it in that way. And that, I believe, is that. So ultimately, there's a lot left to be desired from a meter in this price range, unless you're doing it for coarse measurements in a large area, and you don't need a really fine resolution or anything like that. I think for those cases, it's absolutely good, although you're going to have to check the balance of the blades and correct that with some nail polish or something. So, ultimately, you tell me, if you have a particular opinion on this meter, if you've had experience with this meter, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear. But for me personally, I'm going to keep this. I'm returning it because I need better. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.